think it's really important for moms and women and grandparents who are raising sons to do some assessments in terms of their own work, right? Because I think one of the things I find too is that if you got a son that is behaviorally acting out, if you have a son that is struggling with his mental health and so he's dysregulated and explosive, one of the things that tends to happen is that, you know, that relationship is strained. What's up, Shon?
What up? What up? What up? We are here again, my brother. Cole, what's good with you, man?
What's up, man? Listen, I'm out here at Crystal Mountain, up in the sticks,
Crystal.
getting ready to do Crystal Mountain. Yeah, man. I'm, you know, in the wintertime, this is the place to be where you kind of go sloping.
Oh, okay. So are you? So I know it's not
Yeah.
wintertime, but are you gonna at least go and look?
No, man, I don't got time for that. So I just got in. I'm a keynote, and then I'm out. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
on to the next. On to the
Okay.
next.
Hey, I love it, man. I love it, man. So what is the topic tomorrow?
Yeah, so really the conference is really just talking about recipients' rights. And so I'm just gonna keynote and just talk about the importance of us being intentional about how we support youth and families who are receiving services. You know, so mental health services, behavioral health services. So I just get an opportunity to engage them, empower them, and support them around the work that they do and how hard that work is, but how necessary that work is too. So I'm looking forward to it, man.
That's what's up.
So yeah, that's what I got going on.
Well. Let's
Yeah,
get
what's
right
going
into
on
it.
with you?
So you must be in your keynote speaking mind. So I'm gonna get right into it. So we gonna get right into it. No, because you got to get to your prep for tomorrow. So Cole, so what?
Yeah.
I know we did the Raising Kings a few months back. We had a room full of women, right? So my question to
Right.
you, and we are always advocating for dads and families. So my thing to you is, bro, what are women to do, or moms, caregivers, whomever? What are they to do when there aren't any men around, right? When there aren't any men to support? Because I just look at tonight. I coached my son's youth football team, and we had a issue came tonight, right? That we had somebody on the sideline, another parent was talking reckless to the kids, right? And myself and one of the other coaches went over and talked to the dad, right? The grandfather, matter of fact. And when I walked away, and we talked to the boys, because I always look for opportunities to teach these young boys lessons in everything we do, however they practice or whatever the case. So they, the man said something reckless. And I'll tell you, the man, he's probably about 70 something years old. He told the young boy, he said, "That's not what your mama said last night."
That's not what your mom's what?
That's not what your mom said last night. So he said that, yeah. Yes. So he said that to an 11-year-old boy, right? And so we handled it. But my thing is, as I walked away and I finished addressing it with the kids, I was like, yo, I was there to advocate. And there were
Right.
other men that was there to advocate for these young boys. So my question is, how do women, or what are they to do, bro, when there isn't a father around to advocate? And I know women can do it, right? So I'm not on that. But we're just talking about when
Right.
we're looking for a father or a male caregiver to play a certain role
Right.
in certain moments. So what are, from
Right.
your professional perspective, what are they to do, bro?
Yeah, so I mean, to piggyback off of what you just said, man, I'm really glad that there was someone in that space like yourself who was healthy enough to be able to connect with this dad or the elder and be able to sort of guide that conversation, right? Because that could have went left in
It,
2.5 seconds.
listen. One of the coaches, he wanted to go there
Yeah, yeah.
and walked over there like
So
these, like yo. So I'm like,
yeah.
okay,
Well, I think what was powerful about what you just did, right? Because we talk a great deal about emotions and having the some emotional intelligence in terms around the language capacity with your emotions, and so your ability to be able to, you know what, recognize the feeling, but still be able to articulate the feeling and the emotion without it escalating into some type of violence or some type of aggression is really key, because I think one of the things we talk a great deal with moms about or mothers or aunts and grandmothers when they describe that there are no men in the village. We begin to really talk about, so let's just actually outline, when we talk about men, where are men at? So can you describe in your community, where are men? And so one of the things that we start to point out, well, there are plenty of men that enter into barbershops daily. So their opportunity to connect with a local barber, or you might have to do some traveling to different barbershops. I've even encouraged moms to go in and observe the barbershop, listen to the language and the conversations that are being had, because in some instances you might enter into a barbershop and may not even be a safe space for your son to get a haircut, not because simply of the language and the conversations that might be carrying or happening within the barbershop. I had to learn how to do that too. Just because it was a great barber didn't mean the environment was a great space for my sons. And so I had to learn how to recognize how to get in there and listen and learn at the same time. So I think that's one. I often tell people there is a university, there is a college, usually in a community. So, that might mean connecting with your local college or university to find out, what are some, there are male students that are there. There are male professors that are there. So I think the thing that I've been learning and just kind of helping people understand is that you oftentimes, if you don't see the men that you want your children to model after, you may have to go to places where men are that you want your children to model after. But also be aware too, is that it's also very difficult, because I can tell you from my lived experience, I'd love to be able to mentor every young person that comes along the way, but my capacity and bandwidth is really challenged by that. And so when I hear some stories around, Cole, I need you to mentor, I have to now take a step back and say, can I actually do I actually have the capacity to be able to do that? Because sometimes I'll be like, yes, I'll do it and do it. And that should become more harmful than good, because what I end up doing is not being able to be consistent. And I think when we're talking about mentorship and and moms finding men to mentor their sons, consistency is going to be key. So it's not just about mentorship. A good friend of mine by the name of man, I was about to say a couple other friends, but my guy, um, man, I can't think of his name. Why am I drawing
but
a blank?
just one of your friends, just
Henry,
one of your friends.
yeah. So, but one of my friends, man, Henry Sapp. I'm gonna just put it out there. He speaks about life builders, and so I think it's really beautiful around the idea of like transitioning mentorship to life building. And so I think one of the things that's key is how do we create opportunities for men and boys to really build with each other, so that they do have the opportunity to have somebody model for them, and then men walking alongside them. But the challenge, Shon, that we have, which is even bigger than that, is that there is no real rites of passage for boys. And so, where are the rites of passage programs that transitions a boy into a man? Like, where are those programs at? Where do men go for that support? But also, where's the hub for that? And I wonder, in my work, is that I don't see a lot of programs that actually support boys in walking alongside them to help them transition into men. So that's always been something I wonder, where are they? And how do we build ecosystems of those, so that moms and aunts and caregivers like women can come in and connect their sons to those.
So I'm glad you said that. One of the things that I see, bro, from when we look at the community, when you say connect with certain programs and all that type of stuff, one of my biggest concerns is it's like, in the community, how they have all of these churches, right? You have all of these churches, somebody get upset. They don't like what this pastor did. So what happens? What's the first thing they do? They either stop going to
But
church, or they want to start their own church.
yeah,
Right? They start their church out of bitterness and anger, not because God called them to it. Right? And so now
right,
you are pastoring from a place of toxicity, right? Because you hurt, right? And that's what's going to come through your pulpit. That's what's going to come out of your mouth when you establish your church on the strength of that. And so when I look
right.
at a lot of programs in the community, unfortunately, bruh, is that people will start these programs and they really shouldn't start a program.
Mm,
They should really partner with somebody else, but they're looking at it as like, you know
I
what?
agree.
I'm going to do this better than this person, or they see this person and they want to do what they do instead of like, yo, why can't we put our both of our superpowers together to make impact? If it's really about impact, because when we're talking about moms and women who are looking for a place, a safe place for their sons or their grandsons to go, it's really important for them to be able to take their child to somebody that's healthy, right? And I'm not saying that he has to be
Absolutely.
absolutely whole, but he needs to be making
Right.
steps towards that. That when you're in their program, that it's not about me telling you what you ought to do, right? And I'm not living it, right? Because eventually it's gonna come out. And I
Right.
really
No, I agree.
believe, man, that spirit that's upon you or the spirit that's in that environment will get upon those individuals. You can talk all day long, but it's a spirit that's
I agree.
associated with it. Everybody don't believe that, but I really believe that we carry, that there are spirits, man, and that thing that's upon your tail can
I
be
agree.
upon other people in other environments, right? So I just think it's really important to really consider uh, those things when you're looking to take your child to a community organization or community group. I say you do your research, right? Do your research, see who that leader is, right? Like, what is that person? Like you interview them, right? Like, yo, like, what is their belief about family? What is their belief about that whole that whole dynamic, right? Because I don't want my son to be in an environment with somebody that is going to teach him some toxic stuff, bro. Yeah, I mean, hands down, that's not okay, right? You know what I mean? So I just think
No.
that's one of the things, man, when you're deciding where you're going to take your child, that you need to go and interview some of these jokers, man. You know what I mean? Before you give them over uh to those men.
No, I totally agree, and I also think in conjunction to that, I think it's really important for moms and women and grandparents who are raising sons to do some assessments in terms of their own work, right? Because I think one of the things I find too is that if you got a son that is behaviorally acting out, if you have a son that is struggling with his mental health, and so he's dysregulated and explosive, one of the things that tends to happen is that that relationship is strained. And so the first thing that most adults want to do is just quickly give the child to someone else. Now it's your turn to find a way to be able to support them.
Yep.
Did I?
Yep.
Can you hear me? I'm freezing up.
No, you good. Somebody must have called you or whatever.
So I just think that
You was frozen. You was frozen for a second now. You was frozen. You was like
I,
these.
I was locked in there though. This guy.
That's what you was frozen like that. Yo, that's how you was froze. You know what I mean? You know what I
Bro,
mean?
chill, man. I'm
Hey, you know
trying
what
to
I
get.
mean? What up, Big Mike? Yo, I'm telling you, man. Yo, but no, that's
No,
that's good,
I
Cole.
So I think just to echo what you're saying, man, I think part of it is just maintaining those relationships with your teenage boys, because I think it's so easy sometimes when those relationships are strained just to move away from them instead of moving into them. And it's really important that, moms and other caregivers do that investigative work that you're talking about. You should be interviewing and looking at the history of these established organizations and programs and asking questions, because, again, you are turning your son to somebody to provide a level of coaching. So you want to be mindful of that. So
Yeah.
that's real. That's real, man.
That is real, man, and I appreciate you saying that, and and I look at, bro, some of the guys, man, that I had a guy call me today, bro, and and this is, I just want to shift gears just for 1 second, because you made me think of something. But this dude called me today, man, and he wanted some help, right? And I'm like, yo, we got you. And I never judge, right? But it was just one of those days, man, where I was just like, dude, are you serious?
Yeah.
But this brother, man, and the biggest thing, like, so when I'm coaching other fatherhood advocates, like teaching them how to work with men, right? I'm trying to show them all of the dynamics, right? But today
Right.
was a great learning lesson because this dude called and he has multiple children, right?
Okay.
Multiple children, multiple women who he had a child with, and
Okay.
he's behind in child support.
Okay.
And he was really pissed and angry at the system and the moms because he had to pay child support, right? And I was like, yo, how much you behind? Like 20, 30 thou? He was like, nah, more than that. And I'm
Mm.
like, bro, you had to not be doing anything, right? For it to get that high. And listen, I already know the dynamics of it, how it can get that high. Because, some dudes, they
Right.
just
Right.
don't go to the court. They don't want to deal with them the whole night. So I
Yeah.
know it's it.
They don't open the letters. They don't
Yeah.
do any of that.
Yeah. So it really doesn't have to be that high. So I don't jump on those individuals from that standpoint, right? But my thing was, it was like just talking to him, his mindset was one that was like um he wasn't taking any responsibility as his role as a father. And and I didn't have the time at that moment to really take him through, right? Because I was just getting an assessment of it. But I was definitely like really disheartened of his viewpoint on that he shouldn't have to take care of his kids. And all he was looking for was us to bail him out. And I had to let him know, like, yo, that's not why we created this organization. Like, you know what I mean? I appreciate you reaching out, but that's not the reason why we created this. We created this to strengthen families through fatherhood engagement, not one for to give you a bailout. It wasn't one of those, government bailouts. So that way you can get this done and you go on your merry way. It's about responsibility. What's up, Father's Heart podcast family? Yeah, we have sponsorships now, and this week's sponsor is none other than Involved Dad. So listen up, fathers. Are you looking for a deeper understanding to understand fatherhood and make a positive impact in your children and families' lives? Look no further than Involved Dad, right? Where we create strong fathers through fatherhood engagement, right? It's extremely important for children to have fathers that are not only showing up, but they are showing out, that they are fully invested, they are fully engaged. So this week's sponsor is an agency, man, that knows the ins and out of fatherhood and know how to strengthen families, know how to fill the gaps and connect families to the right resources so they can live their best lives and become more and more successful. So listen, if you need assistance, if you know someone who needs help on fathering, on parenting, co-parenting, or a father that is just struggling, right? That he does not know how and what to do about his next move, because this game that we call this life that we live, sometimes, man, it's like a game of chess, right? Like knowing your next move, and that involve dad. What we do, we help fathers make their next best move. So reach out to us, right? The number is 313-757-1388, and you can find us on the web as well, and that is involvedad.org. No S, because a lot of people put involved dads, although we want involved dads, but it's involvedad.org. So yes, listen, don't be average. You might as well be elite in your parenting and in fatherhood, right? Like, what's your belief system, right? I understand that you can get behind that life happens, all of that, but what is your belief system? And talking to him, his belief system was pretty sad, and all I can think about was his kids who don't have access to a father because he's pissed that he has to pay child support.
Well, Shon, I think the other part of that, man, is that programs have created codependence.
Mm.
So you learn from your mother, from your grandmother, from your aunts. You learn that programs are to give you something. They're transactional. You go there, you get the help, and then you're done. So I think that people don't always understand the mission, the vision, the pillars of the program because they don't read those brochures, right? And so all I need to know is, oh, you help with FOC. Okay, I'm coming because I need help paying down my rearages.
Yeah.
So I think part of it is that we have to shift the way that people interact with organizations and agencies that are within their village because it is very transactional. And I think that part of what we are trying to do is connect in a more human way so that we can help understand or take the veil off of transactional relationships in programming and really get to the root of it. Because I think so many times men that enter into some of these spaces, if they enter into the space, have learned by watching other women in their lives who have utilized programming as a means to get a need met.
Yeah.
And so it's an instant gratification. Whereas I see that a lot. And so part of I think what you saw was that too, while at the same time, again, when we talk about how boys are socialized to become men, accountability and responsibility sometimes goes out of the door or out the window if they're being raised by somebody who is trying to overcompensate for the loss of a significant other who's supposed to play the role, working too much, whatever those things that get in the way. It prevents sometimes parents who are raising children on their own to to hold children accountable and to require them to be responsible for something. So I mean I think there's a host of dynamics that get in the way of how boys become men, and how we show boys eventually show up in programs in men bodies, and so
Yeah.
that's why we do the work we do.
Yeah.
But
And that's
it
and that's and that's
but
for
it,
real.
but in that too, I think Shon, part of the other part of that puzzle is that what happens to the men that are doing this work and constantly coming in contact with men who are struggling in that way, because that's work too.
What do
That's
you
work too.
mean? What do you mean?
So, for example, as a facilitator, as someone who's running a program, someone who spends a lot of time working with men, how do you process all of the things that you see? Right?
Yeah.
How do you kind of, because you see these stories a lot and you don't even share all the stories that you probably see that are heart wrenching or difficult to process, or you see men and you're like, what, I can't even believe this brother's operating out of this thinking, right? But that it carries weight on you too. And so part of this for me is like, we talk about this idea of iron sharpens iron, and holding each other accountable. But man, that could be some weight too, just navigating
Yeah.
all of these waters when it comes to the engagement of fathers.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. So I understand what you're saying. So me personally, I'm not gonna say I'm different, but I've learned, right? I've learned working in the prison, how to separate, right? How to separate that from this. And so one of my prayers, like honestly, years ago, my prayer was I asked God to help me see people through his eyes, right? And I learned that from somebody else when it came to my marriage. And so it's the same thing when I
Okay.
work with my fathers. I'm like, God, help me see them through your eyes. So even when they on their buffoonery, um, I have a level of grace for them that I know that doesn't come from me, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know it, I know it's not me, right? Because I still
That's good.
have compassion, and my thing is like, okay, I need to know the total story. I need to know everything so that way I can help this person best. And so if I shut them down right away, bro, I can't help them because if I shut them down, they're just gonna go back home to the individuals that they're tormenting, right? Or the people that they're not getting along with, they're just gonna go back home to them and continue the behavior. So I'm like, okay, I'll be that sounding board. Allow me to see, uncover it all, so that way I will at least have some type of, I can develop some type of skill set to help that individual. So I'm like, okay, you called me to this, so I need you to give me the grace and the mercy to walk this walk. So you mean not to be religious, but it was a reason why Jesus had to carry that cross. He was given
Right.
that assignment, right? So he was able to carry that cross. He give it to somebody else, they wouldn't have been able to do it, right? So he was the one that had to carry it. So my thing is, I understand this is my cross to carry and to bear, but I know it's not my own strength. It's something greater than me that's given me that ability to see beyond what I see. I talked to a father today, bro, from Minnesota. This brother is on his domestic violence, and this is not one that's just like where it was where where it was speculated. Like it's documented that he has been putting his hands very aggressively and badly on his child's mother and all types of stuff, right? And I'm just talking to this dude, and I'm working with Chuck because I'm teaching Chuck how to work to do this work. And so I'm listening to this dude, and I know it took uh everything of God for me to be able to sit there and listen because I'm like, okay, God,
Yeah.
teach me to only pick up the things that I need to pick up to help him understand and how to get to a certain level, because he was saying a whole bunch of stuff that where you would want to strangle this dude. But I'm like, yo, I'm like, God, give me the
Yeah.
key pieces, right? And that's what he did, man. He gave me the key pieces to listen to for me to be able to help this brother understand. And so I'm like, yo, today wasn't a day for me to help him navigate. Today was a day for me to listen. But I was hearing all the things that I needed to hear. So next time we can do something different, we can make progress. So long story short, I wanted to say all that from your question, Cole, because it's not just something that's easy. This is something that I've developed over time to be able to navigate the system, bro.
No, that's good. That's good.
So when you look at
What?
Jacob, good to see you, brother. Good to see you, Jacob. So my thing, Cole, for you, as a man, right? And I know we're talking about so what happens when you don't have any more to give as a father, you know, as this individual, like when you don't have any more to give, like how do you give, bro? Like from a man point of view, like how do you give when you are overwhelmed yourself when you hearing these stories? Like, so I mean, you got these husbands out there, um, and I can't wait to 2 weeks till we show that video, because it's gonna be
Yeah.
good. But how do you give, bro, when you don't have any more to give?
Man, can you?
Just talk.
Can
Yo,
you hear me?
you frozen, but I can hear
Oh,
you. Go
okay.
ahead. Go ahead, bro. I got you. You
You
freeze
know what?
boy. I'm calling you freeze boy. You up north. The reason why he's freezing, guys, he's up north. He messing up all of this jump. But just go ahead. We can hear you and see you.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say part of it is the relationship that I have with you outside of just our general work, the relationship that I have with other brothers that I can lean into, to just bounce these ideas off of me. And I've actually been writing, so I've been learning to sort of write this stuff down, but also recognize too I can't carry all of it, nor is it my responsibility to do that. And to remember that part of this work is for me is that I have to show up for myself. And so it's unfair to go out in the world and do this kind of work that we do when we're talking about serving others when we aren't really well. And so again, I often talk about one of the hardest lessons I've had to learn in my life is learning how to say no, and sticking with no. And that's been something that I think that I really had to learn. But for me, the most part is really talking about it and getting it out, and then recognizing that this is a lot of this don't have anything to do with me. And once I realize and continue to recognize that I'm a servant leader, and I don't have to take everything personal. Because it's much more bigger than me. And I think when I realize that, when I hear the stories and I feel the hurt and pain, then I actually accept the hurt and pain that I feel, and I cry and I write it out and I talk it out, and then I get up and I do it again. And so I think that's been really helpful for me is to oftentimes just sit in the feeling versus trying to chop the feeling up with something else. Just learning to be able to sit with the stuff I'm hearing and
So
then
what
recognize
is
that it doesn't belong to me.
so how do you sit in it? What does that look like when you talk about something you sit in it? What does that look like?
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, sitting in it. So if I hear something that breaks my heart, then I feel what it feels like to have my heart broken. And so I might start to cry. Because most of the times when we feel things we don't want to feel, we start to substitute it or add things to it to not feel it. So the old me used to eat. So when I'm stressed or when I'm overwhelmed and I hear something that hurts, then I just go to food because that's the place that used to bring me comfort. And so just reprogramming myself to just sit in the feeling.
I
If
like
it's joy I feel, then I sit in the joy. If it's abandonment I feel the abandonment, and I think that has been really significantly helpful for me, because of this work. But we're also talking about helping boys recognize the power of tapping into those feelings.
yeah.
So it's real,
That's good.
real.
That's good, bro. One of the things tonight, man, I remember when I was playing football at Michigan State, and my kids know my story, right? So I started as a sophomore. As a redshirt sophomore, I was starting, and I just knew I was on my way, on my path to the NFL. Because I'm like, yo, I'll be a 3-year starter, Big Ten university. Like, yo, I'm guaranteed at least a shot to the pros. Well, after we played our first game, man, my head coach at the time, Nick Saban, challenged us, and I wound up losing my starting spot. Right, we got beat bad by Nebraska. I lost my starting spot, and how I responded afterwards, he was just challenging me the same way when Deion Sanders came to Colorado. I don't know if you know,
Right.
Deion told the kids, he is like, yo, you might as well get in the transfer portal because I'm bringing my luggage with me in this Louis. Right? He like,
Mm.
y'all might as well leave because I'm bringing my own players. They ready to ball. They better than y'all. You guys have been, just horrible, right? And so,
Wow.
if I'm not mistaken, like 90% of the kids that was on that team left, and probably less
Oh
than
wow.
10% stayed, right? And so what it showed was that some of these kids was like, I'm out. And the 10% that stayed, when they were interviewed last week, they was like, yo, we took that challenge. And one of the guys said, I talked to my dad, and my dad told me if you want to swim with the sharks, you got to swim with the sharks. But if you want to swim with the little fish, then you got to go with the little fish. right? And
Yeah.
so it
That's
was so dope is that he had his dad with him to help him process that. Well, when Saban came in, my father didn't help me process that, and I was so used to quitting, and so I knew how to quit. So when I was challenged by Saban, I wound up quitting. Right, I didn't quit the team, but I quit internally, so my actions, looked like a quit. Right, even though I was extremely athletic, already proved that I could start. So I say all that like today, my son, I coach his team, right, and I'm trying to prepare him for the real life. So today we didn't put him in a certain position. I could see he was in his feelings, and I liked it because he wasn't in a position that was glamorous, right? And he was, and after he got a chance to make a few plays, you could see him try to spunk up a little bit, but he still was in his feelings from the decision that we made earlier. And so when practice was over, we talked about it, and he expressed it. And I had to talk to him. I was like, "Listen, bro," I said, "I noticed that you was in your feelings." And I said, let me tell you something. Your feelings will cause you to make some very, very bad decisions. There's nothing wrong with understanding your feelings, sitting in your feelings. But what you did, you allowed your feelings to dictate your next move. So instead of you saying, you know what, I'm going to embrace this moment. I feel this type of way, but these feelings right here is going to cause me a great deal of pain and harm. And so me as a father, bro, I try to stay very close to my kids. So when they show something or when they experience something new, I'm close enough to help them process it. And so I was able to identify it because I was there before. And I was like, son, I was you, right? This happened to me at Michigan State, and this was the end result of it. And so what I saw you do today at 11 years old, when I made a decision at 10 years old, it became a way of life. And I don't want you to set up a pattern that when you get in your feelings that you quit, that you start pouting. I need you to change the way that you think. I need to change the way that you believe. And it's going to be through a series of processes. And I said, because you failed at this one time, guess what? It's going to happen again. It's going to keep happening until you learn how to not master it, but for you to confront it and learn how to navigate through it, because you may never master it, but you'll learn how to navigate through it. And so
yeah.
I'm real
Yeah.
big on that, Cole.
Yeah. No, I think I have learned how to do that, but also learn how to model it too. So I've had to learn how to stop talking so much. I'm a talker, so I've had to learn to stop talking and just simply listen and listen to not just the words that my children, and again, I have adult sons, but listen to the behavior and not always, kind of. I used to inject my opinion in everything when they weren't even asking me.
Mm.
And I've had some amazing sons who are extremely strong willed and don't have a problem telling me exactly what they think of me in 2.5 seconds.
Because you
Right.
taught them
And
that. Because you
so
taught them
having
that, though.
kids that tell you the truth about yourself forces you to,
Because you taught them that.
yeah. And it was an, yeah, it was but it was an amazing journey because I wasn't trying to teach that. I'm like, listen, do what I tell you to do because I told you to do it. And then I had some sons that pushed back at me and was like, "Yeah, Dad, that sounds good, but guess what? I'm my own person,
Come on.
so I'm gonna do what I want to do." You know what I'm saying? And so I had to learn how to listen to my sons because they weren't me, and that they were their own individuals. And I also just had to learn how to be quiet. But let me tell you, that took a lot of work
Yeah.
because I also recognized I didn't want them to fail, but I also wasn't responsible for their failures. And so I had to learn how to sit back and watch them fail and hold myself together because I wanted to swoop down and save and fix and make everything better. And then I had to learn, well, shoot, some of my most beautiful lessons came from failing and falling on my, and having to figure out how to pick the pieces up. And so I think for parents too, that's one of the most important keys to survival is allowing your kids to fail, but also putting in the space for them the tools to be able to fail and pick themselves up. because sometimes when they don't have the things that you just described, that your sons and your daughters have, man, through you and your wife, and out and wait for you to pick them up. So, I mean, you're creating those tools so that they can become self-reliant, because the goal is for them to be humans, adults too. Without, we're raising adults.
Yep.
So
That's real.
that's what we got to do. So
That's
I've been
real.
learning that, man.
Yeah.
I've
That's
been
good,
learning that.
man. That's
So
good. And
I
so
don't want
I
to do
want to park
time.
there. I want to park there. I want to park there, and I want to pick back up next week
Yeah,
on that, because I think that was real deep what you said about your children failing, but you're not responsible when they fail. I want to
yeah,
pick back up on that next
yeah,
week, because that's a deep statement. Because
yeah.
I feel like I want to say something differently, so I really want to
I
hear
know you
your
do.
thought process. Yeah, I want to tap into that. So we'll pick up
I know
next
you
week.
do.
Yo, so give us our legit or not legit. Uh, and I could say, is it legit
Yeah.
for your
So
internet to be all?
yeah, it's legit when you don't have any control over it.
Oh, I like it. I like
you know,
it.
I have no control, and so I want to quickly bail out because I don't look the part. But you know what? No, we stay fast and we go through it
Let's
because I know I don't have
go.
control.
Let's go.
But listen. But the legit or not legit, is it legit or not legit for a man to position himself when he's walking down the street with a woman? Is it legit for him to position himself by the street when he's walking? And is it legit for him to position himself when he sees another man walking past in the opposite direction or in the direction that they're walking toward, and the person looks kind of sketchy? Is it legit or not legit for now this man to position himself on the other side of the woman so the sketchy person doesn't walk past the woman? Is that legit or not legit to do all of that in making sure that a woman feels safe while she's walking down the street
Absolutely.
without her permission?
Absolutely. I say
Without
absolutely. Without her permission, I say absolutely that I feel that it is my responsibility. And this is the thing that a woman, right, the other day, and I'll tell you, my daughter, right, and I was talking junk with her. This dude went to open up her car door that she didn't want to. She knew him, but she didn't want him to open it. She was like, "You don't gotta open my door. I'm my own woman. I'm an independent woman." And I'm like,
right, right,
really,
right,
really.
yeah,
So yes, and I'm teaching her how to be independent. But my thing was like, what spirit was that coming from, right? Because you're your own woman, but how do you want a man to treat you, right? Like what do you want out of this relationship? So he can just have you do everything everything on your own, but you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't just say, I want you to do this when it's convenient for you, right, where you're making all the rules. So I'm just like, oh, that's the way you want to play that thing. And I talk to my own daughters, this way. But my thing is, I don't think if
okay,
the young lady does not want that to happen, yo, it is what it is, right? And I'm not gonna force my will, but I do think it's legit. And Shakita said she think it's legit. I do think it's legit for a
okay.
dude to position
Hey,
himself.
good to see you, Miss Brooks.
She said
So listen, I
taking
think
initiative is top tier.
ooh,
Because the thing about it, man, to get to the place, man, like for real, bro, is like the society we live in today. It's like, I don't know, man. Chivalry is gone. It's like people black out on dudes when they not this and not that, but when they show this side of it, it's like you're mansplaining, right? My wife quick to tell me, Shon, you mansplaining. No, I'm explaining to you because I didn't think you knew or you understand. It had nothing to do with me
mm,
being just being a man, right? That's just me as a personality. or whatever the case, like how I operate. But
That's a
I
new
think
term. I've never heard of it.
you never heard of that mansplaining.
No,
Yeah,
that's new to me.
yeah. I've heard it where a man feel like he has to explain something because the woman doesn't understand. Now, where I will say personally, I have come to my wife's defense when I didn't need to, but it was the protector in me, right? Where we would be on the
Okay.
telephone and somebody was like, we doing some business dealing, and somebody on the other phone wasn't getting it, wasn't understanding her. And then I interject, was like, okay. And I started explaining it, right? And I did that several times. And when we got done, she like, yo, why do you keep doing that? Like I can't explain for
Yeah.
myself. And so in that position, I can see because the spirit behind it, my spirit behind it was you can't articulate this better than me because I'm a man, that
Right.
man is gonna understand me. So in that, I owned it. I was like,
Right.
ooh, no, I ain't even under. I was like, ooh. I was like, babe, my bad. My
But
bad.
what I realized too, though, I think, and I don't even know, I didn't see a man growing up, standing on the side of the street while a woman walks down the street. I didn't see that growing up, so I'm not even really sure where I picked that up at. But I find that men have the need to sometimes use their bodies for protection. So
Yep.
it's like I'm going to, if I have to be on the side of the street and get hit by a vehicle, then I'm going to make that sacrifice. And so I'm really curious around where do we learn these messages that, you know, when it comes to that, you you make sure you put your in that because I saw myself instantly doing it, and then I saw myself shifting on the opposite side of her because the person that was coming towards us looked kind of shaky for me. So I was like,
Yep.
no,
Yep.
I don't like that. So let me get over here too.
Yep.
And we didn't even talk about it.
Yep.
It was just me moving around,
Yep.
and I thought, where did I get this? Where did I get that from? And why did I just naturally do it without even a thought?
Because
So I'm just
it's
curious to know.
my thing is Cole. I mean, my thing is, bro. I think it's innate. It goes back from the Bible, bro. I think it's innate, man. Like for real, I think it's just straight up innate that it was embedded in us, like men, far as like gladiators and going to war and protection. I think it's just already in this. It's just like a lion and just like any other animal, bro. Like there are natural things that come through them. You don't have to teach me to have, you know, something in the morning. It's just natural that my body responds a certain way. I just think that is innate, right? But those things that's connected to toxicity, is another is different, right? Of where my thinking about this individual is less than, is more weak, or whatever the case. That's something totally different than me automatically where you don't teach me, right? The way I feel about my mom or wanted to protect my mom, bro, nobody never taught me that. But it was something you said something to my mom or you did something about my mom or whatever, bro. Automatically, I wanted to go into protection mode, and this is as a little
Yeah,
boy. Nobody taught me to do that. I wanted to protect my sisters, and I was smaller than them, right? It was just already,
yeah,
in me. So I just think, we could have this conversation, man. I can't wait to Tasha come on because I want to tap into
yeah.
this,
Me
man,
too.
because I do see where society, man, has shifted to where they do not want men to be masculine, right? And then I'm not talking about where I gotta be this brute strength and all that, but there's certain things that men want to do naturally, right? I don't care if you small, big, white, black, things that are just naturally in you. And we're women. I'm not talking about the kitchen stuff and this role and you can't clean or cook. That's
Right,
stuff that
right,
society put on you.
right. But I think if we stay with this example, one of the things I walked away thinking to myself is, oh, I didn't ask her permission for me to be doing all that. And did I offend? Did did I send off the message that that I believe that she's not strong enough and not capable enough to be able to protect herself while walking down the street? So all of those things were circling through my mind,
Mm-hmm.
while at the same time me automatically doing what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, dang, I didn't even ask her permission. And so, we talk a great deal about consent, and I just wonder how far does consent go? Where does consent move in its intersectionality of men? Just about it.
Yeah, no, this is good, man. This is good. Shakita said it's orchestrating what to do with that protector you have inside of you. Consideration goes a long way. Absolutely,
Mm,
right? Absolutely. I think it's both
yeah,
and, right? I don't think it's either or. I think it's both and, right? I think that you
that's
can
good.
have both of them, right? You can ask for permission. Do you mind if I do this? Because you mean because of the times, right? The times that we live in causes us to
Yeah,
be more conscious of some of the decisions that we make versus years ago when we didn't have to ask for permission because everybody was kind of like thinking the same way, doing the same. But today it's a little bit different. So you can ask for permission and there's nothing wrong with that, right? And then you have those individuals, just like, no, I'm straight, I'm good. Where you have others like, no, I don't mind, man.
yeah,
I wish more men would do A, B, C, and D. Man, goals, right? I was talking to my wife the other day, and I know we got to get out of here. I was talking to her, and I don't know what it was, but she was like, you know what? I never thought about it because she saw something on social media, but she was just like, do you feel like I don't really pay attention when we out? Like, do you think that because I'm with you, I don't have to be worried about crime or something happening to me or this or that? And I was like, absolutely. I said, because when I'm with you, you just do, 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 do. But me, my head is always on a swivel. So you feel protected, number one, by God. You feel like God is protecting you, right? But two, I'm with you. You like, oh, he got it. Something happens. Oh, he
yeah,
has it. Oh, that happens. Oh,
yeah,
he got it. So the same way when it comes with certain thing in my life, I'm like, oh, I don't got to worry about that because she got it. Because that's a superpower. And so, yeah, where I don't have to exercise that muscle because I can depend on you, your muscle is strong in that area. Where in the other case,
right,
you don't even have to think about that because I'm here. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with it because it works for
yeah,
us.
yeah.
Yeah. Good one, Cole.
Well,
Good one,
listen,
Cole.
man, we got to get Tasha on and help us break some of this stuff down.
Yeah, man. All right, man. Let's get it, man. Hey, thank you guys for being with us, rocking with us, man. We will see y'all next week. And Tasha will be on in 2 weeks from now. She'll be on with us from here on out. Let's get it.